Well, hey. Welcome, my beautiful souls. It is Magnificent Monday. So, welcome once again to Tony Talks, where I am here to encourage, inspire, and motivate you to become a better you. If you've been rocking with me for any amount of time, you know what we do. You know how we get started. We get started with some deep breathing, and we do 4 counts in, 4 counts out, and we do it 3 times. All right, so breathe it in deep enough to hold it for a couple seconds, and then you're letting it out. Okay, you're blowing it out like you're blowing out a candle. So let's get started. All right. First one. Good morning, Chiate. Our second one. And let's do our final one. That's feeling real good to me. I hope it is to you. All right. So our final one. All right. So today we are doing something different on today. Tony Talks likes to stay innovative, creative, new. Okay, I don't like to just do the same thing over and over, although that can be good. Consistency is good, but I like to always add something new, a twist, a little pivot, just something different. So, good morning, Nicole. Thank you, Shiante. I'm sitting in a different space today. And so today we're going to be talking about the state of the Black community from the perspective of today. I am Tonye Denise Lattimore, licensed marriage and family therapist. And so I'm giving my perspective on the state of Black America and then what we can do, trauma, all of those things that we have experienced as Black people. And so our parts in really just making a change, because as Miss Jackie always says, nobody is coming to save us. We're going to have to save ourselves. And so, what can we do as a people? So, today, I am going to be interviewed. Good morning, Amy, and good morning, Miss Jackie, by my big sis. And I'm going to let her say, I'm going to let her tell a little bit about herself. Come on. So, I'm going to be interviewed by her. She's going to be asking me some questions about, the state of that's okay. The state of Black America and what can be done. So, without further ado, she's here on site, right? She ready, and so do you want to be the cleanup woman? Or go ahead. We'll let her because today she's gonna be the host and I'm gonna be the interviewee. Okay, so this is different. All right, so we're gonna go with the flow.
Good morning. Hello, sister. Hello, everyone. So today I'm a cleanup woman. I'm always the cleanup woman. Always cleaning up these streets.
Ooh, that's good, right? Because that's what we come to do today is to clean up the streets of Black America.
True. So this conversation came about, it was birthed because I was watching my sister in our family group chat gave a person, Anthony O'Neill, and she always sends, great topics and great different information. And one day I was watching, and he had a therapist on there, and it was himself, and they were talking about trauma in the Black community and how it relates, and they also had a financial piece into it. And I said, "Oh, sister, you should really do a show or a topic on this." On this. And so she was like, sure. So here we go. Without further ado, let's get into it. So first of all,
hold on. First, I forgot. We first have to do the scripture because I always like to start with word, right? We always got to have the word of God because that's what we standing on, especially with what we're talking about. So we're going to Second Chronicles 7:14. Talk to your brother-in-law. He on there.
Hey, brother-in-law. Good morning. I'm sure you have some great information for us, and you can get back, and I know you have something pertinent to say.
Mm-hmm. So Second Chronicles 7:14, we're going from NKJV, all right? And it says, it's a popular verse. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. So that's what popped into my mind this morning. And I thought that it really refers to a lot of stuff that's going on nowadays. Like, we just doing stuff out here in these streets. We not anyway. Let's get into I'll go there later. Let's get into this interview and we'll talk more about that.
Okay, so let's start off by giving your definition of trauma.
Mm. Trauma is something that impacts the mind, body, spirit, everything of that person. Trauma blocks up you from being you.
Mm, interesting. Very good perspective. So I did pull up and I looked up, as I always see. Uh, Tony talk. And in the Oxford Dictionary, it says it's something that's deeply distressing or a disturbing experience. So that would be a very good assessment of it. So let's dive into some of these
I
questions.
think you said have not been healed. Is that say that?
That's
Something. Oh, that's something else. Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, I would add that trauma is something that has not been healed typically, right? Well, trauma could be something that you have had because we've all had traumas, but if you do the work, then you can heal from trauma. So I'm sorry for jumping forward and looking on your paper.
It's okay. It's all right. Okay, so let's talk about starting with us as parents, because we both have children. How do we, as parents, pass down trauma to our children?
Man, well, going into something, having it's genetic. It can have genetic properties because, as we see with our parents, right? Mm-hmm. They came from traumatic backgrounds, and some of that we don't even know. True. To the degree we don't even know, right? And all we know is really what we see. So trauma passes because they teach it unknowingly a lot of times. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to. I really don't think people who, even when they do it, even with trauma, when they are, how do I say it, maybe doing some of the worst things to their children, mm-hmm. I really don't think that is their intention. I think it is something that has been passed on to them that they have seen and has been embedded in them. Okay. And so they end up passing it down to their children. So unhealed trauma then passes down because that's all they know. You see it day in, day out, right? Growing up. And you know that saying that says, do what I say, not what I do. Mm-hmm. We know it don't happen like that. No. What happens is we do what we see. We do what you have seen from your parents do. So that's how it continues to just pass down. And that's part of what's happening nowadays, is that there's no healing taking place, right? People just out here bouncing around and they're not seeing in themselves. They're not seeing the trauma within themselves, nor in their genealogy. Because what I do in therapy a lot of times is look at the genealogy, right? So we go up 2 levels. I don't actually do, which I should do, like a gene tree. Mm-hmm. And look at, okay, what's your parents like? And then what's their parents like? Mm-hmm. And then we talk about what are the similarities? What is their depression? Is there murder? Is there abortion? Is there divorce? What is coming down the gene pool so you can see it and then you know what to come against?
Oh, that was a lot.
It was, and it is a lot, but it helps people to see. Like I do a sister and a brother, mm-hmm. and so we're working on their gene tree now because their trauma is very similar to mine. And it's funny because I'm like, wow, I need to do a gene tree. We need to do a gene tree within our family so we can really look at some of this stuff that is coming down the pipeline. So we know really it's like offense and defense. We know what to combat.
That is so deep. I'm really just thinking about that. And as stepping aside from me into being the interviewer, it just makes me think like even if we did reach out, I don't know if we would even.
Yeah.
How far could we get into it?
Yeah. Because how much information would we get?
Yeah.
That's the key, right? A lot of in our households, in the Black households, we have been taught to keep things quiet, right? Mm-hmm. You don't tell what goes on in this house stays in this house. And trauma on unapproached or not dealt with stays trauma. It doesn't get healed, right? And so if you don't have the generations above, which we know those are generations that really were taught that you keep this stuff in house. All these secrets, family secrets, were kept in house. And so with that, it's kind of hard to see everything that you're dealing with because there was so much molestation and just a whole lot of traumatic stuff going on that kids were privy to see, right? Even though they weren't supposed to, right? Mm-hmm. The adults having parties, all kind of orgies, doing all kind of crazy stuff, and the kids watching from the rooms. Go to y'all room, y'all go play, or doing it to each other in the rooms.
Wow. I didn't really look at it like that. Okay, so you kind of already touched on this, but I'll still ask it anyway. So the next question was, do you think trauma was passed down to you specifically? And if so, give one example of a kind of trauma that you experienced.
Definitely trauma was passed down. I will say with my children, because I was absent, especially with my oldest, was absent with him quite frequently. Mm-hmm. I mean, outside of having you and then him having friends and having friends' house to bounce around to, mm-hmm. he was raised a lot on his own, right? And so even though we had both of our parents in the household, they were still absent, mm-hmm. mentally absent. Yeah. There was something mentally that was wrong, right? And I'm not gonna diagnose. I could, but I ain't. In both of them, and then Dad had the alcoholism. Mm-hmm. So you got a whole bunch of stuff that was going on there, and so was it passed on? Absolutely. Like, the absentee piece. That's a big piece. There's several ways I could see that it was passed on, and then with Faith, I tried to coddle her. So it was from one extreme to the other, and any extremes is not healthy. A lot of people say, I'm going to be the opposite of what was done to me. But the opposite end, both parts are dysfunction. You want to get to a centralized place where it's more balanced. And so that's, for me, that's where I see a lot of the trauma in my children. And, that's why now I'm trying to repair that, mm-hmm. trying to work with them, and hopefully they will see it so it doesn't pass, and good thing they don't have children yet, so that they can still work on themselves before they bring someone into the world.
Oh, I love that. I do. Another question. So a lot of times, I'll just ask the question. Do Black folk think that all good things come through trauma? And I say that in the sense that a lot of times we always are in a sense of struggle. Mm-hmm. We have grown up in the struggle. I mean, when we start our history, most of us don't reference what happened in Africa. We reference once we got here, once we were on the boat, we were down in the bottom of the vessel, throwing up, laying in vomit, yes, and excrement and everything else. So we start there, and then we talk about the beatings, the whippings, and everything else, and then we talk about that was a sense of struggle. We had to get here, we had to learn, we had to deal with master, we had to deal with all those other things. And now, even to this day, we still in a sense of struggle. Mm-hmm. So do you think that Black people, since that's kind of how we were birthed, or at least that's what we always reference, do you think that we think that all good things come through trauma, or we have to go through trauma to experience something greater?
That's a good question. The majority of Black people, I believe, would believe that because of what they have experienced. Most of us, not most of us, we all have experienced, even if it's through our ancestors, we all have experienced trauma.
Yes.
So what we know is trauma, right? So do we feel like that's the only way we know how to pull ourselves up or get through or really make it in this world through trauma? Probably the majority of us would probably say yes, trauma is the probably catalyst to getting us to where we go. And when I think about it, even spiritually, I think that a lot of God's servants, in fact, everyone that I think of went through trauma. Job, David, Moses, all of them went, Abraham, all went through some type of trauma.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. Wait, so this is kind of getting.
No, ask me. Go ahead. I may not know the answers to all this stuff, right? Because it was not rehearsed, but I'm gonna answer.
Totally not rehearsed. This is just. I'm just kind of jumping on her with these questions. She didn't get to review them or anything prior to. But so, do you think that's because we have these kind of conversations from time to time? So, in a sense, do you think that's how God kind of wanted it?
I don't think the initial plan was for us to go through trauma. I think when sin entered into the world, once Eve was, took a part of whatever fruit it was, apple, pear, whatever, right? Then sin entered. And so then that brought that trauma piece into the world. So if they had not taken part in sin, then it would not be trauma in the world.
So trauma wouldn't even be something that we would
be experiencing. No. So our true identity should not be in trauma. It should be in a peaceful state because they were put in paradise. They had everything that they needed. They chose to do this thing that was contrary to what God told them to do.
Gotcha. Okay, next question.
And what you can be what? If y'all have any questions, feel free to ask as well. We'll get back to them.
Oh, I'm glad you paid attention.
Yeah. Okay. It's a duality, right? You gotta look at the screen, talk. Yeah.
Okay. So now, are there specific forms of trauma that disproportionately affect the Black community and also contribute to our financial challenges? Because that's one of the pieces that I want to talk about is how trauma affects us financially. Because a lot of us are where we are because of the trauma that we have experienced.
Okay. One more time with the question.
Are there specific forms of trauma that disproportionately affect the Black community and that contribute to our financial challenges?
Well, I'll say the biggest piece of that, the financial piece within the Black household, is that we don't share information. Think about our mother and father. He went to work. What did we see? We saw him go to work. We picked up good work ethic, but he is an amazing saver. We know because you saw about what he got saved, right? And yet he didn't teach us that. See, what happens in other communities is they teach their people, right? And they share knowledge. My people perish for lack of knowledge. So we didn't learn how to say. We learned on our own.
Well, I will have to say this. I'm going to give a little pushback on that piece in the sense that Glow did teach us.
Well, that, yeah.
She did.
To budget. We didn't.
Well, no, because she did tell us you're supposed to take a third of your check. Remember when we got a third? It was a third or a fourth.
Oh, we had to give to her a fourth.
We did. But then for the longest, I no longer do it, but I need to get back to it. I did save that same portion of my check, and I would save that.
She taught us that.
That's where I got it from.
Okay. I remember we had to give a quarter of our check, which
was
at
the
time,
paper route.
Yeah, we had a paper route. We used to make like $15, $25 a week or whatever. We had to buy our own clothes, so we became what's that called? Layaway queens. That's why I don't shop layaway now. Nope. If I can't buy it, I ain't getting it. And we had to give trauma. Yep.
Wow.
Had to give a quarter of what we made. It didn't matter what we did. We had to give a quarter of what we made. But it helped us because now I'm able to tithe and give. And I think that's part of what made us givers is because we learned, right? We learned that a quarter of the check goes to somewhere else. Now, I don't know about a quarter is a whole lot. A quarter of, 25% of what you make is a lot. But had we kept going with that, just look at where we would be, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I believe. I believe it's just not taught in our households. And we have to, as a result, what has happened is we grow up and we have to learn on our own. And a lot of us never learn. You know how many clients I have I would say probably 88%. I don't know why I said 88, but that means the majority come in with some financial issues and don't have a clue of how to budget, don't have a clue of how to save, don't have a clue of that you got a 401k, you work in a good you have a good insurance back, you get good insurance, you get good benefits, you get a match to your 401k and will not save it.
That's true.
So we have to get it's something we have to learn. And I don't leave it on the parents per se because when you get older, then you should be doing it for yourself. We research everything else.
Yeah,
if you want to know something, they say put it in a book and black people ain't gonna learn it. And that's what has happened, right? We do not take control of our own stuff that we have the right to take control of. Listen to programs like AC Green show. I mean, he oh my God, yesterday was that show was so bomb. He was talking about so many different things that we are blinded, and I'm getting off a little bit, but we're blinded to as not just black people, but as people in general, how the higher ups, the president and all this, the things that is happening, and we're not seeing it because guess what? They're putting other things up.
Diversion.
Exactly. Diversion. So we don't see what the real deal is. We got to take these blinders off. We got to see underneath what they're showing on TV. That's why I don't watch it. I don't really watch it because it's all diversion. It's a lot of mess that keeps you from knowing what really is going on.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. Next question. What are some common signs or symptoms of trauma-related financial stress, or just if you don't want to speak to the financial piece, or just stress that you see in the Black community?
Not processing our stuff, not talking about it. The anger is so, oh my goodness. Just in Chicago alone, right? This place has, I don't know why it's so heavy in Chicago, but I don't like to see the warm weather come because I already know the warmer it gets, the more heated it gets, the more heated people get, right? And just alone, about 3 blocks away from here, a lady and her son,
14 years old.
yeah, her son, well, got into it. And then she called her son to shoot the man who was, now he was clearly out of order. He was out of order, but to call your son in with a gun to shoot him and kill him, now 3 people are, you might as well say dead, because she gonna probably, I don't want to speak it on her, but she's gonna have some serious time. Her son probably gonna do some juvenile time, but he'll probably get out, but his mama will be locked up. And then the guy got killed.
Yes.
And then at one of these barbecue places, somebody got shot in Dalton. So it's like our anger. We know two emotions, anger and sadness.
Yeah.
And those are, if you stay in those, a cause for destruction, especially the anger piece. If you stay in anger, and I say destruction because the sadness is going to take you to depression, right? So then, I mean, I don't want to say you're not any good, but you have lost your sense of self, right? So anger, we have to start processing. And that's why I'm a therapist, right? It's like I see the need for But us as a people don't see the need for it. We don't want to process. We'd rather hold it inside. So some of the what did you ask for? Some of the you said some of the signs, right?
Signs or
So
symptoms.
right. One sign would be unprocessed trauma. Just holding that stuff inside. Because what it does is it's like a garbage can. If you don't take that garbage out, it's going to keep building. And what is it going to do? It's going to stink. It's going to keep building on top of each other. It's going to compress and it's going to explode at some time. Explosion for a garbage can is it's going to, start coming out of the garbage can some kind of way. And that's what we're seeing. And, everybody now pretty much has guns, right? And most people don't know how to use them. So one thing, like I say, unprocessed internal stuff, not sitting down, not taking enough time for self to really see why am I this way? Because that didn't have to go that way. She didn't have to call her son into that, right? And me and my husband talked about it. And, I said, I would just left the place. And people may say, people are so afraid of one person getting the ups on them, right? Oh, he ain't gonna talk to me that way. Woo, 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 and lack of respect because men don't respect women anymore. He like really balled his fist up and just punched her as hard as he could punch her.
He stole on her like twice, didn't he?
And she still was standing.
I said the same thing.
She
She took
was
the
standing.
punch like a champ. I thought, if I would have got hit like that, I would have been down for the count. I probably would have been knocked out.
Yes.
But yeah, he hit her like she was a guy.
Right. So it's in our community, I feel like some of the signs are, this is why we do deep breathing, because deep breathing helps you to calm yourself. So in that moment was so pivotal, right? And then we have people standing around who is filming it. Right. And I talked to my husband about that this weekend too. We have to, and it can be scary to step into something, but I'd rather take the risk because I'm going to approach it with love and kindness. I'm going to approach, and if something happens, it could happen, right? But I'm going to hope and believe that my calmness, ours, because we said we're going to do it together when we see things, we're going to approach it together. Our calmness and pulling them away from the situation, because when people see that other people are around, there's an audience, you behave differently.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
After segue, excuse me. I used to work at a school in education for quite some time, and I was a dean for quite some time. So whenever students had an audience, they came to perform. It was like if we were at the circus. They knew, so they put the clown shoes on, they put the nose on, and they put the wig on. They were going to show up and show out. You were guaranteed if you had an audience. If everybody was in a classroom and people couldn't see it, the conversation was low. But as soon as one person peeked out, oh my God, it was just all over the place. So very true what you're saying.
Exactly.
And it takes, as they always say, we take it kind of cliche, like it takes a village, but it really does. If we care about this community, if we care about, even all it takes is just one. And it's if one of us, I can't change the world, nor do I expect you to change the world, but I expect you to change a part of your small world, my small world, my next door neighbor, my whatever it is. So I love that you and brother-in-law are going to embark on that journey. I do say be careful, but I do still say if everybody up under the sound of my voice, just every day you see something,
see something, say something.
Try to change, be the change that you want to see. That's also cliche, but it's so true. Okay.
And we have this thing of, what is it? Tricks get. What is the the saying?
Snitches get stitches.
Right, that type of thing, right? Snitches get snitches get stitches. That's like the stupidest thing. It's like we got to start stepping in.
We do.
Holding a phone is doing not what good is holding the phone and filming it when you could literally, and in psychology it's a thing of the circle, like watching those on the outer circle. There are very few people who are those bold enough to step outside of the circle. I forgot what it's called, but it's a,
It's actually a thing, a name for it.
it's an actual thing. It's an
Yeah.
actual name, right? And so those who stand on the sidelines, you know, most people aren't going to be bold enough to step out of the sidelines and step into the situation. And all it takes is that one person to say something, to really just show up. And most times it can be diffused.
Very true. What role does access to mental health services play in addressing mental health, trauma, and like financial trauma?
Yeah, well, access to mental health plays a big role. And so it used to be, I would say when mental health first started to get popular it's really just now getting popular in the Black community, right? Mm-hmm. So we didn't have a whole lot of access we had access, but didn't have access to our own color, right? And studies show that most Black people prefer to have someone Black because they can relate to them, right? Mm-hmm. I did a whole thesis on why Blacks and Hispanics go to therapy less than whites. Mm. And so it showed that there's a lack of trust in the system. Blacks don't trust the white system, right? Even with doctors, they don't trust white doctors. Mm-hmm. So now that we have more Black mental health professionals, mm-hmm. we do have access, but it's just making it more normalized. Okay. A lot of people don't see therapy as normal, right? I still hear people say, if they call us shrinks, now I'm not a shrink. I think they're talking about psychiatrists, mm-hmm. right, who prescribe meds. A lot of people don't want meds. I'm not one who, and I can't prescribe. I would have to send you to somebody. Mm-hmm. But if I could prescribe, there are some cases that people need meds. And sometimes I would use meds temporarily. Like if you really have maybe experienced something, PTSD, depression, but that's a temporary fix because people get dependent on that and they don't do their work. Underneath depression and PTSD is different, right? Mm-hmm. You may definitely need some medication to kind of get you out of that. Although I've worked with people with PTSD, and if they do their work, they can be healed. Mm-hmm. So I would say the access is now there. There's even programs. There's a lot of stars now who are donating money to mental health. Mm-hmm. They have to different foundations where people can get mental health services, right? You just have to follow through whatever, and they'll pay for some of your sessions. Oh, wow. So we have access, but a lot of people don't want to spend or see the necessity for therapy. Mm-hmm. That will be on the back burner, and they'll go spend $200 on a whole meal where you could have had your copayment $25. That would have been 8 sessions. You could have had 8 sessions, right? But it's the digging in ourselves. It's not wanting to see ourselves. Mm-hmm. That I think a lot of people, and then not knowing. Because, if we don't know, we don't know. If I can't show you, I wish I could have an actual therapy session on live so people can see how it goes, but I can't do that because it's a boundary crosser.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
even if someone said, one of your clients said,
if they agreed to it, no, I wouldn't do it because they can come back and sue me later. They could agree to it now, and then something come up later, and they could say they had trauma because the whole audience, it's all kind of stuff. So I wouldn't put myself in that situation.
Oh, okay, interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, how can financial education, whether from the school system, whether from wherever it can come from, help with the trauma around the financial piece, the lack of? Because most of us in the Black community have a sense of a lack of. Mm-hmm. How can that help us?
Well, it will give us knowledge. Mm-hmm. It will help us to be able to learn how to build our own communities, to pour within ourselves. See, we don't have the finances in our communities, and they bring other people in our communities to take our finances from us.
Mm-hmm.
So what it would do is knock out some, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't know what else to call them. Arabs. What are they called? Muslims? I don't know. But
the people that own the gas station, the little corner store,
exactly,
all of those things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It would take them out. We used to have mom and pop stores. We used to have candy stores where, because we went to candy stores and got that penny candy
before school.
Exactly. That was our lunch. We used our lunch money. If we had lunch money on penny candy. Yeah. So we had that as part of our community. And sometimes in some communities, I mean, our penny candy lady wasn't somebody who we looked up to, but sometimes they poured into you, you know, mm-hmm. If you went there before school, they would be part of the community that poured into you, mm-hmm. You know, and so lack of finances is huge because one thing we're doing as a community is fighting against each other over finances instead of coming together.
Yes.
You know, so financial education in the school system, that's where it should be in the school system.
But it's non-existent.
Non-existent. Mm-hmm. It should be in our homes. You know, what we know, even if you only know a little, it should be taught. Teach that little to your child. Right? Teach your child, maybe give an allowance, make them do work. Make them do work. See, that's another thing. Like, we have gotten away from all these kids pampered. Yeah. They able to sit on these tablets and all that stuff. Don't get up, clean up. Don't learn how to do nothing, cook, do anything in the households. Mm-hmm. And so if we got back to teaching them the value, well, I guess nowadays, I don't know how much allowance would probably be, $20 maybe a week.
I think it's about $20.
Yeah, $20, $25.
And it's really age-based, but there are still a lot of children that I see getting $20. Because as a cleanup woman, sometimes I'm privy to conversations. And from working in the school systems, I still see some kids who get an allowance. And some
are they doing work?
Some are not, and some are.
Yeah.
So it all depends. You know, it depends. I guess, once again, it goes back to how someone was raised.
Yeah.
Some people are giving money to throw money at a problem because they're not there, they're not available. So, hey, I want to make sure that I'm giving. Other people are, and I do. I can see a parent, one of my clients, as I'm thinking, making sure, take out that garbage. She's constantly just looking like, oh. Mm-hmm. It kind of reminds me of our parents. Mm-hmm. It's constantly, he has like a list of things to do. He ain't just sitting there playing on no game. Mm-hmm. And you know, the 3 hours while I'm there, he doing some stuff. Mm-hmm. Clean up. She will not even let me clean up in his room if he didn't do what he was supposed to. She said, you're not cleaning up his room. That's his job.
I love it.
So I do too. Mm-hmm. And I'm always like, you want me to clean up your room, do what you're supposed to do.
Right.
So I think,
yeah, so I was saying just teach what you know, mm-hmm. Right? If you don't know a whole lot financially, you know enough that you can share with your kids to where it can help them to be a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you check and see if there's any? I guess I'm supposed to be checking because you're getting interviewed.
No, they're just commenting.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna ask just a couple of more questions and then wrap it up. And if someone does have a quick question, because I know I don't want to hold anybody for too long, but I did think that this trauma-related financial piece is so big because I see it, and I also see with some people that I hang around with and some people that I'm rather close with, how they interact with their children.
Can you talk about that?
Financial. Oh, yeah, definitely. How I talk about the financial piece. So if you're not good with finances, to me, how do you expect for your children to be good with finances? Mm-hmm. So I look at, they typically get paid, make a lot of money. A lot of money, like about $130,000. And so that's not super a lot, but it's the average American the average Black person makes $45,000, and I learned that from Anthony O'Neill.
I thought it was 48, but yeah, somewhere in there, so, in the 40s. Yeah,
he said they make 45. So if you're 45, 48, so 130 is more than double. Mm-hmm. Definitely more than double. Mm-hmm. So really what they say is not what you make, it's what you keep.
Yeah.
So if you get to a point when you can start making $300,000 a year and you still don't, and Anthony O'Neill speaks about that sometimes. He knows millionaires who they make $1 million, but they're not really a millionaire. And he also said, now I'm jumping stories, but Anthony O'Neill said that there are a lot of people who it's the school teachers, the nurses, it's the yeah,
I think it was firefighters. Yeah.
People who make a lot less money, they actually end up
Teachers.
saving, far more money. And I know my mother-in-law, when I was married, they had 11 children, and the father never made more than $25,000, never. And at one point, she had saved in a bank account over $26,000. So she had saved over $26,000. She didn't work, and he did. So that was, but she also didn't pass on how to do it. She just did it. So one of the pieces I think is big from this conversation that I'm just having an epiphany on is the teaching piece.
Yeah.
And we all know something. And if we don't, this little computer right here has all the knowledge. All you do is Google anything you want to know. Watch any kind of show you want to know, and you'll figure out how to make it happen. I think the last question I have for you was, what advice or recommendations would you give to us Black people who are experienced or who are navigating this trauma-related financial situation? What advice would you tell us about how do we get out? How do we help someone else? How do we figure it out? What do we do?
There's a lot of things we can do.
Give us 3 things.
Okay, one, I will say, so financially, there's books everywhere. They even read to you, right? There's all kind of ways. Me and you, we listen to Anthony O'Neill. He gives tips all the time. Get the knowledge. Get off the TV, right? Get off social media and you may be on social media if you're listening to somebody who's going to educate you. Find somebody who is doing it, who is walking in it, and who is willing to share the information. Anthony O'Neill shares the information. So there's no reason why you can't get, to a place where financially you're stronger, So that's one thing, financially. 2, begin to spend time with yourself. Learn who you are, and that means okay, yes, we have to work. Yes, some of us have little children, but the important piece is if you don't take care of yourself, you are no good to nobody else. So take care, pour into yourself, whatever that means, in order for you to be better. And then that opens up spaces within you to make room for you to be able to be better in this world. Because a lot of times we're not better. I think of a client that I have. She happens to have a 14-year-old son.
Okay.
And she works. And I get it. It's a dilemma because it's so many single parent and women, households where the women are running the households, but yet they have to work, right? And a lot of them she has no help, right? I got another one. She got 3 kids, no help. So even in that, if you got to get up 30 minutes earlier, and I know that can be a struggle, it can be a struggle, but you have to pour into you. If you get up at 5:00 and they get up at 5:30, at least you got a half an hour apiece. That's time to be able to, let me have my tea. Let me just sit here in silence, whatever it is that you need. But it's a must to pour into yourself. And then the third thing would be, I would say getting back to family, learning the importance of family.
Okay.
Another conversation me and Tyrone had was about, the growing up, he sat as a family with his family, eating dinner. It was a lot of them, they sat, they talked. We're not talking. We just was in a restaurant the other day. And so, yeah. the kids, 3 kids,
Mm-hmm.
all of them got their phones.
Mm-hmm.
Mama sitting there, nobody is interacting.
Right.
Put them phones down and talk.
Sure.
Right? You don't even know what they're dealing with. You don't even know. She didn't even know because 2 of them and the youngest one was sitting across from her. You have no clue what she was looking at on her tablet. She could have been looking at some stuff. Nowadays, it's a lot of bullying, cyberbullying going on these phones. And what these young kids, what's being imparted into them off of TikTok, right? What they are learning. So I say we need to get back to family. Family is going to be the closest piece to getting to community, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If we build our families back up, we'll know what community is because family is community. It's a smaller portion, right? Mm-hmm. Then we can branch out. I think about, when I first moved here, and this is kind of jumping ship to something else, but when I first moved here, I live in the hood, if y'all don't know. Mm-hmm. I live in the absolute hood, but on a good block of the hood, thank God. Mm-hmm. And I said when I came here, we've been here 2 years, 2.5 years now. I said I was going to add to the block, and I have done none of that. I've added to my own home. Mm-hmm. If anybody who drives up and down this block and you're looking for the Lattimore home, you know which home it is because it stands out. We got flowers out, our grass is green. Not a nan other house on the block has green grass. We take pride in our stuff. But my point was, I said when I moved here, I was going to build community and go and help people put their flowers out. And I never did that, right? Because what difference that could make in the community. I don't understand I just personally don't understand why there are hoods. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have a hood. You don't have to have where these homes are broken down. And even if they're broken down, you can keep it clean. Right?
Pick up the trash.
Yeah. Right. So we go out there, we pick up, we clean up trash. People just drop trash in front of our house. I don't know. It just seems like, oh, it's the cleanest house on the block. Drop it. Right. So I wish I had done that, to where I encourage and went even sometimes just knock on the doors. Hey, Jehovah's Witnesses back knocking on doors now. So I could have knocked on all the doors within my community and got those who were willing to do something different. That's a piece I would say. That would be the fourth piece I would say. Okay. Step out of your comfort zone, right? That would have been me stepping out of my comfort zone to help somebody else build even just this block, right? That's all it takes is one on the block to say, hey, I'm going to help you. Now let's us go and help somebody else. Mm-hmm. And then you got a whole team. It don't take long. Remember us growing up, when they built Kingdom Halls, the whole congregation built the Kingdom Hall for the free. Like they didn't have no debt. They wasn't carrying, we got $1 million. No, they built it as a Jehovah's Witness community. Mm-hmm. So why can't we just, the model is there. Mm-hmm. All we got to do is implement it. Mm-hmm. So that would be my, I guess, 3 and bonus.
3 and bonus. I love it. I do. And I'll say this last thing that I picked up from the show. And there was a question, and he said, the reasons why Black folks are not living the life that they deserve financially, and it was because of past trauma, because they have not healed, and also we don't utilize what we've been taught. So if you don't have any other takeaways from today, the 3 things that Tony Speaks, she just spoke. Tony talks. I'm sorry. Tony talks. And Tony just said, and also
question.
And also, let's look at our past traumas. If you have some, and we all do, let's work on getting those healed. And if you have not, if you don't know where to go, you can always inbox Tony. It's a good resource right here. What was the question?
You read it.
Oh, me read it? Oh, okay. This is from Tyrone. Find a good man or a woman.
I love it.
Tyrone, brother-in-law says, find a good man or woman and grow together. Money is not the key to happiness. It helps, but living stress-free, being able to pay bills and live comfortable. If you're single, don't worry about money so much. Your health and your mind at peace is everything.
Come on, husband, you did that.
Thanks, brother-in-law.
I
I knew
agree.
you'd have something great to say.
I agree with that. That's another thing. Um, us as a couple, you're seeing less and less marriages, right? It really does help, like being a team, having a teammate. And I know it's difficult out here because most of my women clients, that's what they in therapy about, is about, them wanting a mate, but struggling to find somebody who meets, what they desire. Yeah. And so sometimes it's like, I just believe that, how do I say this? In these times, right? Black women are making way more than black men. But if that black man, like that black man of mine, you get the right woman to pour into you and build you and be your biggest cheerleader and be the queen alongside of the king. I don't have to be the king of this castle. He is, right? And he knows it. I make him know that he is worthy. I think that will help elevate that man, even if he's not bringing in what you bring in. I believe that it will help y'all build together and grow. But we have to heal these traumas.
That's where it starts from.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the seat because I'm one who has trauma around the relationship piece. So I'm very open about that. I'm a work in progress. And but I do know that two
are better than one.
Two definitely are better than one. But until such time, this one is
okay. Right. Until then, right? And then he said about the single piece, right? Like the worry. Because a lot of single people, they do have worry. Some of them worry about, am I going to find a man and be able to have children while, my clock is going and blah, blah, blah. Some worry about, I've been married before and I'm concerned in these streets, how it's going to be, or just have a lack of trust.
Oh, yeah.
So it's that's a lot of stuff that needs to be healed as well, and therapy works,
Therapy does work. So, in closing of the show, I would like to say this. So, since this was birthed from the Anthony O'Neill piece, Anthony O'Neill, my sister, watches you. She has actually passed it along to our family, to the group chat, and we all do. We look at you, and I get so many great pointers and tips from you. On this day, June 26, 2023, one day, I would love for you to have Tony on your show. She's going to be on your show.
Hashtag on my vision board to be on the Anthony O'Neill show.
So we thank you guys for joining in. I know this wasn't the normal segment, but
which is good, right? The norm sometimes needs to be, ooh, that's good, disrupted.
The disruption of it all.
As we are reading T.D. Jakes' book, Disruptive Thinking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So norm can be good, but sometimes it needs to be, sometimes you just got to look at that. What is norm producing results? If norm ain't producing results, then let's disrupt that thing and let's do something different. Yeah. So we thank y'all for coming on. And this here, that y'all see, this has been a total work in progress because we have been, man, this relationship between us, and that's a whole nother show, right? Maybe we'll do a sister show.
It has been.
But we've been in and out, of relationship with one another. But I would say this has been the best relationship that we have had. We're developing, we're still growing, and we're just open to where we're going with Yes. Within this relationship.
Let's toast to that. Let's toast to relationships. And so, in short, if you have a relationship, if you have a situation with a family member or sister, I know this is not even kind of related, but it is since we're talking about community and family. Try to work your stuff out. Work it out because it really. I was trying to tell you.
Yeah, I know. I had to take a hashtag relationships. Yes, healthy. Healthy, right? I ditto what you just said. Relationships are so key. Life, I don't like to say life is short. Life is what you make it, right? Even if you live a short amount of years, those can be long, but make it good, right? We have the ability to make life be whatever we choose it to be, right? And so holding on to grudges and just being stuck in our emotions. Emotions is some of the worst things sometimes if you don't unprocess. Let me say that. Unprocessed emotions can be the worst place to be because it stops you from getting where you need to be, right? Nobody is perfect. And I'm going to say, like my girl, Miss Jackie said, right? Oh, shoot. What did Miss Jackie say? Miss Jackie says, oh, do it with love and kindness and grace, right? The thing I love about Jackie is that she is real and raw and she gonna let you know, like she told me, I'm not letting you go, sis. She said, but I need you to have that same grace that I have with you, right? Because I share a little bit about my background that I can bounce in and out, right? She's like, that same grace I have with you, I need you to extend it to me. We ain't always gonna get along. That's not what relationships do. We're gonna have some differences, right? But to be able to stick in and through it, right? When those differences happen, to be able to, okay, guess what? Don't get caught in your feelings, you know, process it and know that her heart or whoever's heart, is their heart good? That must be good if you let them in your life. I ain't letting nobody with no good. If they heart ain't good, stay in my life, So I'm working on having that grace, being able to extend that grace because none of us are perfect. And we all come with our stuff. And sometimes that stuff rubs up against stuff. And then, it's like being able to let that stuff go. Love, kindness, grace.
I did want to read Jackie's comment, which is so lovely. Sisterhood is so beautiful. To see y'all do this together, breaking generational curses. I appreciate that. You just don't really know how much that means because, to see us sit here after going through, we moved to Chicago at, I think I was 19.
And I was 17.
We've gone months without speaking to each other.
Months.
It was years?
It was years. Yeah.
Well, that's probably a long time. We in and out. It's like double dutch. Jump in, then you jump back out. And so
can I interject real quick? Yeah. Trauma. Because that's what we saw our parents do, right? With friendships.
Or even their parents. Like sometimes they don't talk to their, like at least my father sometimes didn't talk to his mother. Glow always spoke to her mother, but not her siblings.
And Glow, for those who don't know, is our mother. Okay.
So that's another topic.
Thank you, Shiante.
That's just another topic. But I just want to say thank you guys for giving us this opportunity. Giving me you could have been anywhere else. You could have done a whole bunch of other stuff. You could have been making some bacon and some biscuits.
And might been doing it while they was watching.
You could have been showering, but you decided to shower us with your time and your love. And I so appreciate this. So,
and somebody spoke it over you, and I think he may have been correct. Oh, Cheryl speaks. Yeah, somebody just told her that, right? And I'm pushing everybody to use their voice because we all have something inside of us and we all have an audience, right? We all can reach. Who I reach is different than who you'll reach, right? So Cheryl speaks ain't far off, And your topics may be different or whatever, but I'm urging people. This was a whole setup, and you ain't know it. right? But anyway, I'm urging you to really think about your strength areas and to just really start expanding. Same thing with that one there, my husband, to start walking in them. Is it scary? It can be scary, right? It can be something that when we show up, don't even know what's going to be said or know how to move, when you're on screen. But as you get going, right, then it becomes easier, right? So I say, like, use it. That's part of helping build the community too, because now we have a social media community. And so if we can spread it in that way, then we don't know what pieces they're going to take out into the world to their people.
Sure.
Yeah. So, okay, we got one more comment.
Kiana, my cousin. I can see. Oh, cousin, I can see it for you, Cheryl Mack. She is very transparent, understanding, and unbiased. Oh, really? Thank you, guys.
Okay. So, yeah, that's good to have that, right? To know how somebody else sees you. Because sometimes we don't see ourselves the way outsiders see us.
We do not.
Hmm.
We don't.
So that's something, you got your cousin who looks up to you, you got little sis who looks up to you, and you got tons of you got students from the past who look up to you, and you have other people now who are even at your level or above who look up to you.
I'm honored by that. Thank you.
Yeah. So just think about it, and everybody here, all of you here, if you aren't speaking or talking or using your voice in some kind of way as influence, not your own influence, right, per se, but I always say allow God to use you, right? Because we all can push our own agendas, but what is that? We want really to be serving God and allowing Him to use us to make a difference in this world.
Amen.
Okay, so thank y'all for joining. We're going to close in prayer. Let's see. Oh, Wednesday. Oh, yeah, we have the amazing Jackie Kane coming on. She is a life coach, amongst so many other things Jackie does, right? She has a new Jacqueline Deshay Kane. Yeah, JDC.
JDC.
Right. So she has my Pretty Has Purpose journal. She has so many things that she does. But we're going to talk about the life coaching piece because I just want you all, if you're not going to seek a therapist, a life coach can be good as well. And so we have her coming on Wednesday to talk about how she, her style, how she delivers. Okay. Cool. So all minds clear, and we're going to close in prayer. So, Lord, we just thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for this day. We thank you that you have woken us up on this beautiful Monday day, Lord, that we're able to even walk. Some things we take for granted, that we're able to move on our own. We're able to speak, Lord. We're able to have these conversations, Lord. I just pray, Lord, that this will not be a one conversation, that even, audience members, and we will continue the conversation. What I learned in therapy is that a conversation never dies. It just continues to be added to. So may we add to this conversation, even in our own households, in our own families, in our own communities, Lord, so that we can start improving as a people, Lord. We can do better, Lord. Everything that we stand in need of is within us, Lord. Help us to be more thoughtful of others. Help us to think outside of just ourselves, to want to give to others, to want to help others, Lord. And so I just pray that you will continue to direct and order our steps, God. Order our steps everywhere that we go. And then I pray that you will open up the doors, the windows of heaven, that we will not have room enough to receive everything that you have in store for us, Lord. As we seek ye first your kingdom and your righteousness, Lord, it says, then shall you add unto us everything that we stand in need of. So I pray for the Black community that we will get out of this selfish thing, this individuality piece, and that we will get back to community, to sharing, to doing for one another, Lord. And if it's just us doing it, if it's, I don't know how many is on here, even if we do our parts, Lord, that we don't know how much that will spread across the world. So I just praise you, God, for this opportunity. I thank you for this time with my sister, Lord, and what you are doing, even in our family, Lord. If it starts with us, and we got cousin on the line, for it to start building and growing, and for each and every one of our family. I think of Jackie and Shiante, who are cousins, Lord. Grow the family again, Lord. Help us to be able to have these tough conversations, to be able to agree to disagree and still love and show grace. And it's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen and amen.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I love you all, and we will see you on Wednesday. Bye bye.